Massachusetts Congressman Jake AUCHINCLOSS, who is a Marine Corps veteran who also served in Afghanistan. Congressman, I'm glad to welcome you here. I cannot imagine what it's been like for you all this week. Watching what's happened in Afghanistan, it must have been like a gut punch learning of that deadly airport attack. Just describe what you've seen and how you've been feeling.
I think there are a lot of your viewers who remember Vietnam and who are watching these scenes unfurl and asking, how do we do this again as a country? And as a veteran, as you said, as a young member of Congress, I just feel a special responsibility that the next time a Bush-like president tries to blunder and bluster their way into an endless war like this, that we stop it, that Barbara Lee has some support.
Yeah, again, she was the lone congressperson who voted against authorization for that war some 20 years ago. Let me ask you, sir, about the president's national security team that warns there is another terror attack in Kabul that's likely. The U.S. Embassy there is advising citizens avoid those 4 airport gates. So what worries you most for our U.S. service members in the lead up to Tuesday's withdrawal date? How best can Americans who have to work alongside the Taliban as they try to process these evacuees? That is the situation under which that terrible tragedy took place with the suicide bomber 2 days ago. How do we prevent further attacks? Can we trust the Taliban with American security in this moment?
I can't be an armchair tactician and explain or give guidance to how American forces can best handle the security perimeter at AUCHINCLOSS right now. What I can say is that this atrocity several days ago and the credibility and imminence of further terrorist attacks really underscore the criticality for getting these evacuations completed as soon as possible. We have the throughput to get all remaining Americans out before August 31st. We have diplomatic and economic leverage to continue evacuations for Afghan allies after August 31st. It's time that the last boots left the ground in Afghanistan.
We heard the president saying that America is going to hunt down the terrorists behind Thursday's attack at the airport. The U.S. military now successfully carrying out an airstrike, killing 2 ISIS-K planners. What their relevance was to this particular attack, we're not sure yet. Intelligence hasn't revealed that. But do you expect more attacks like this? And after this week, how can we effectively go after ISIS-K without any resources on the ground? And in particular, you just heard the remarks from the Taliban, those official words that said they're not happy about this attack. They feel it is an attack on their sovereignty over Afghanistan.
The Taliban don't have veto power over U.S. counterterrorism operations. The war in Afghanistan is going to end the way it began, bringing terrorists to justice. We will strike ISIS-K targets wherever they exist throughout the world. That is well within the prerogative of the U.S. counterterrorism mandate. And if there is credible intelligence that Taliban members are aiding and abetting terrorists, we retain our prerogative to kill them too. Taliban need to know that. We are not trying to nation build or wage a counterinsurgency in Afghanistan anymore. That should never have been the mission in that country. But counterterrorism remains a core U.S. strategic priority. We are not going to allow a base of operations for people to strike the U.S. homeland or strike U.S. troops anywhere in the world.
So as we look ahead to this week, sir, you have the president, the Pentagon, they're committed to Tuesday's withdrawal deadline. So what does Wednesday look like? How do we get our Afghan allies and other at-risk Afghans out after Tuesday?
I think the most important legacy of Wednesday is going to be that for the first time in 20 years, American boots are no longer in the ground in Afghanistan. This president came into office facing a wrenching decision. He could have gone big or gone home. And he made the high integrity call that we had to turn over Afghanistan to the Afghans. So while the withdrawal from the graveyard of empires has been rocky, and while we do need rigorous after action and congressional oversight over the decisions made for the last 20 years, the hallmark of Wednesday is going to be that this president got us out of a war we could not win.
Well, in fact, you wrote that op-ed in the Washington Post where you said the president made the hard choice in Afghanistan. He made the right one. But you also wrote, sir, that the national interest will be also best served by an after-action review of the withdrawal. So tell me what you think that review should look like.
It should cover the entire scope of the 20-year war in Afghanistan from invasion through withdrawal. It should presumptively declassify all decision-making around Afghanistan, should build on the work done by the Washington Post with their Afghanistan papers, where they lay out in excruciating detail the sunk cost bias that caused national security officials in situation room after situation room to ask for more time, more troops, more treasure, despite knowing that there was no political endgame to wind down a counterinsurgency. It should be bipartisan, it should be painstaking, it should be in detail, and it should give a roadmap for the next generation to prevent future failed forever wars.
Picked up on your word bipartisan. As you are well aware, there are a number of Republicans who've called for President Biden to resign or to be impeached over what's unfolded in Afghanistan. What's your response to that?
That the party of Donald Trump would call into question the integrity in areas of national security and foreign policy of this president is laughable. This president, as I said, came into office and for the first time in 3 commanders-in-chief made a decision with a clear-eyed assessment of the national interest as opposed to short-term news cycles. He deserves credit for that. Again, that does not mean he is spared accountability or scrutiny for his decision-making, but the Republicans' call for impeachment or resignation is a political stunt in service to Donald Trump, not in service to the nation.
Massachusetts Congressman Jake AUCHINCLOSS, thank you for your time with me. I appreciate it. We'll look forward to seeing you again.